doing all those kinds of things. So thank you. I think as Raj said, though, the healing from within is how we start. I mean, we don't use the words unconscious capital. The words we use is purpose and being a purpose-driven company. And we define our purpose as lighting the way to financial well-being. Raj talked a lot about CEOs and make assumptions and learn things about their own companies, and I was on that same journey. 3 years ago, I made sort of the assumption that our teammates would be different. 24,000 teammates at SunTrust, I thought they'd be different. I thought they would have savings for an emergency savings account. I thought they had planned for retirement because that's what we advise all our clients to do. Fortunately, I had a lot of really smart people like these teammates beside me that said, well, why don't you challenge your own assumptions? Why don't we do a survey? And we did a survey, and what we found out is that 40% of our teammates were under some type of financial stress. 40%. That was a huge number. And so the wake-up call for us is if we were going to be on a purpose journey, if lighting the way to financial well-being for our communities and for our clients was our mission, we actually had to start at home. We had to start at home. And we all know Americans are literally one car repair, one medical bill away from financial distress. And we didn't want our teammates to be one of those statistics. That just was unacceptable to us. I am very honored to have just two of our absolute best purpose-driven leaders in our company beside me, so I'm going to let them do most of the talking. I have Margaret Callahan, our Chief Human Resources Officer, who literally, if she walks into a room, everybody says, oh no, here comes the purpose thing. And she delivers it in just an exemplary fashion. And then Brian has the title of Financial Wellbeing Executive, which I actually thought was my title, but apparently it's not. Apparently that's your title. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But let's just talk about some of these issues. And Margaret, going back to the launch of our internal movement, which we now label Momentum On Up, just talk about what that did for our teammates. I mean, you were really the voice in the ear of our teammates.
Well, Bill, it was such a great example of our purpose in action, and so much fun to be able to respond to what you found in the survey, that our teammates really had the same financial stress that the rest of the world had. So what we did is we went out and partnered with a leading third-party provider to launch a behavior-based learning program for our teammates to really focus on their financial well-being. And the idea of the program was really to focus on 8 different modules that covered everything from budgeting to aligning spending with the values to retirement planning, and to allow our teammates to do this at home with their families where decisions are ultimately made about finances. Right. Families need to be part of this together. And our ultimate goal was to get our teammates to a place where we could change some of those statistics, where they could have $2,000 in an emergency savings plan, which, by the way, SunTrust matched by half with $1,000. And we started at that time, and we continue to this day, offering a whole paid day for our teammates to focus on their own financial well-being, whatever that might be, from planning a will, working on a budget, talking with the family about finances, and we call it our Day of Purpose. So we think it was an amazing answer to delivering on what we heard our teammates really needed.
Okay, Margaret, I love results.
Yes, sir. You love results.
I love results.
I know.
So talk about some of the results. What are some things we saw?
The results were really dramatic. From that 40% you started with, after we launched our programs and our teammates started through it, now 77% of our teammates say they are more financially confident. And that is a huge,
that's a big difference.
Huge result. On top of that, now we have spent $10 million for the 20,000 teammates who have gone through that program to advance their financial well-being. So, interestingly, we have those kind of numbers, but as you heard from Raj before us, other things started happening. Retention improved, engagement improved, and while I haven't been able to directly correlate it yet, but I'm working on it, our year-over-year company growth
Right.
has gone just out the roof, and I think this is part of it.
I do too.
I really do believe
I
it.
think they're inextricably
Yeah,
linked.
yeah.
Well, you mentioned we use this company,
World-leading
company called 8 Pillars, which was based in Utah. I had a personal experience which I haven't shared with Brian, and Brian was the leader of this company. I came into one of the first sessions. I snuck into the back. Nobody knew I was there except the 5 or 6 teammates who were sitting with me. I had just taped a wonderful, I thought, video about our 401k match. I thought it was fantastic. The teammates were going to love it. We had a really competitive program. Brian was standing in front of the audience, and he said, "How many of you would invest $1 if you could get 100% interest?" Oh my gosh! Every hand in the room went up. And he said, "How many of you know that your company offers that?" And about 20% of the hands went up. I realized I wasn't communicating in a way that people were listening. So Brian, we decided to just do everything. We bought all the assets of the company. We hired Brian. We brought him into the fold. So talk about what it means being a financial wellness executive. Not every company has one of those. So talk about what that means when you carry your card around. What happens?
Yeah, no, I definitely get questions from time to time like financial well-being executive. Did they just like make that title up, or is that real? I love it because it spurs a conversation about what we do at SunTrust, and I get to tell people that my sole responsibility is to get companies to care more about their employees, to get companies to get more of their employees in a better place financially. And for someone who is, I would say, wildly passionate about personal finance and someone who cares deeply about people, I couldn't imagine a better role. So I feel very fortunate to be at SunTrust and to be a part of this movement.
So talk about, you said other companies, so talk about that. So talk about what we're doing, what you've taken on. So we talked about our own teammates, but that learning was so significant. What are we doing from there?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. So we had great success with our own teammates. And in fact, one banker, I think, is a little microcosm. This story is a microcosm of what we're doing going beyond just our own teammates. Because this one banker said, look, the program got me in a better place financially, but then I wanted my family to participate. So I started telling my husband and my 3 kids, and they said, no, we're fine. We're good. We don't need this. But then she started participating in the program on weekends, on the mornings of weekends, in the kitchen, watching the videos. And her boys went from, what is she doing? To, what did he just say in that video? To, when are we going to watch the next video? And I like that story because it's representative of what we're trying to do at SunTrust, which is we started with our own teammates, we had tremendous success, and we said, more people need this. How can we bring this external to corporate America? And very pleased to report now we have almost 100 companies actively participating in Momentum On Up. Companies like Delta, Home Depot. You know, you've got even Zappos, Waffle House, wonderful companies that are saying we can do better. We're going to get our employees in a better place financially, which we're very excited about. So we've launched it. We offer it at cost, so we're not looking to make a profit at SunTrust on this. And we're excited, but we're just getting going.
You know, one of the things that the two of you didn't mention is, Brian, I remember you told me that employer-driven financial well-being plans have about a 3 to 4% participation rate. Margaret, what's ours?
Oh gosh, we are way up in the 80s. Yeah, really high participation.
80% of our teammates participate in some type of financial wellness program versus the average of being 3 to 4%. When I talk to CEOs and we have this conversation about what's important to you, and we generally, you know, we start talking about all the banking stuff and their capital allocation and what are they thinking about their future and M&A. But when you get to what are you really worried about? What are you really thinking about? And it always relates to their teammates. I'm having a hard time employing. I'm having a hard time retaining. And Raj showed a couple of statistics. We see the same thing. 75% of your employees don't think you care about their financial well-being. They don't think you care about their financial well-being. So think about that. 3 out of 4 have you in that position. So while companies think we've done a great job on the physical well-being side, maybe not so much on the financial well-being. So Brian, talk about what it's like when you go to another company and you talk about momentum on up for companies, because they're the hero in the story. It's not a SunTrust deal.
Yeah, that's something that we wanted to be very conscious of, is that it's not the SunTrust program. It's Gas South's, financial ninja training for their employees. It's Home Depot's path to financial fitness. And so these companies are making it their own, which is very exciting. And I think that's a big part of why it's succeeding. In fact, when you go into companies, at first they're kind of like, now, don't we already pay them and we give them a 401k and we've got health? But then there are certain CEOs that just get it, like Bill's talking about, and that's who we're looking for. We're looking for companies that care, that really want to make a difference, and we are making a difference. What's exciting is if you look at people who are budgeting, before we start, only about 43% of people are budgeting to some degree. We're getting that up into the 87% mark. As far as people who know their net worth, about 68%. When we're done, it's 98%. And when it comes to emergency savings, the average person in Momentum On Up is saving $1,254 more after we've gone there, which is exciting. My favorite statistic is employees are contributing to their retirement accounts 35% more. And that's a big difference. It's a really big difference. The difference between someone not participating in the 401k and participating might be a $200,000 to $300,000 decision. And we're getting employees there, which is exciting.
One of my favorite stories is we have a client who's a privately held company in South Georgia. And their owner, talk about that story, what their owner did. I think it's a fantastic story.
Yeah, a company called IBP, Installed Building Products. The CEO there, his name's Jeff Edwards. And he said, not only are we going to do Momentum On Up, I want to give a $1,000 incentive to any employee who completes the program, sets up their emergency account. Now, this is $1,000 out of his pocket. They have 6,000 employees.
Yeah, it should be
2,600 are participating, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, I can say that, I've rolled out some big programs for some big companies. And before I joined SunTrust, I remember one of my teammates came to me and said, did you know SunTrust is going to give $1,000 to their employees to go through the program? And I was like, no, you misunderstood. They were talking about their 401k. I had never heard of anything like that. That got my attention. That's why I moved my family. I've got 3.
Which is a big undertaking for Brian, by the way.
I've got 4 children. I've got 2 teenage daughters. They're in high school, and we're from out west. But when I had an opportunity to join SunTrust, I jumped at the opportunity. It's very exciting, and the things we're doing are fantastic.
And Margaret, why do you think it's working at SunTrust specifically?
Well, really, it is, and I think Raj referenced it in his presentation too, it's a breath of fresh air. So many of us grew up in an age where talking about money was taboo. And what we saw, what we see now, is we really needed to spark a change in that conversation, a change in those behaviors, and do our part as a purpose-driven company to get our teammates, our clients, and our communities on the road to financial well-being. The connectivity of financial well-being to physical and mental well-being is just undeniable. And I really think the timing was right. People craved it. People enroll, people engage, and it makes a difference.
From our perspective, from the board side, so the board is supportive of our purpose journey. They know how critical it is to our success. They know how important it is to reward our teammates and to put our teammates first and to heal from within, as Raj said. The decision to invest $10 million in this was a 2-minute conversation with the board. We had them at hello, essentially, because they bought into what we wanted to do and they knew the impacts that it would have. We don't talk about the measures so much about retention and engagement and performance because those are just positive outgrowths of this. The key is do it because it's right. It's the right thing to do. That was the driver for us, not the economics. How about these 2 purpose-driven leaders? Can we give them a great round of applause? So what we hope is that, just like John noted with doing Hope Inside, our goal is to be a pebble in the pond. Our goal is to start a movement We're fundamental believers that employer-driven financial well-being may just be the key. When you get the paycheck and the education together, when they come together, they're delivered at the same time versus being disparate, versus being somewhere else along the way. That may just be the key. And we want to be, again, that proverbial pebble in the pond, someone who starts that dialogue and that conversation. We want to start a movement about financial well-being. And as Brian said, we lead this as a not-for-profit. I wanted to do it for free. I said, Brian, we're going to do this for free. I said free about 50 times. And he said, well, no one will respect it if it's free. He said, so do it. Well, can you at least tell me you'll do it at cost? So can you imagine this negotiation? I'm wanting to do it for free and he's wanting to charge. And he said, we have to actually do something that has value for our teammates. We're proud to be here. We're proud to be engaged in this dialogue. John, we thank you personally and all your team for starting a conversation, because everything starts with a conversation. So thank you for allowing us to be here today, and have a great forum.